can anybody guess what it is that I'd like us to pick out what I have just done? And I want you to say it out. What was that? Sorry, let me clarify. I've read two separate things, separate quotes that are the truth about one is inadequate water intake leads to such and such things. Did they know effects of not getting enough sleep are such and such things? What are similar between both of these things that I've brought to you today? Say that again? They both nourish the brain, yes. But remember, there's something I want us to stop doing. Think more about how I said it and how I presented it. Thank you. I said it in a negative way. I said, here are all the things that will happen to you if you don't drink enough water. Here are all the things that will happen to you if you don't get enough sleep. And I include myself in this because I have come to realize growing up in the church over all these years, we often come to people with our message negatively at first. If you don't want to burn, you will do such and such a thing. If you don't want such and such a disease, you will do such and such a thing. If you don't want whatever it is, then you will do this. And it's almost as if we come at life and come to people with our message of love and God with threats. If you don't want God to destroy you, you better get your act together. Otherwise, why don't we ever come to people by saying, if you drink enough water, it does increase your focus. It does help with your short-term and even long-term memory. It does help you be able to perform mental arithmetic. If you drink enough water, you will have so much energy, you won't have headaches, and you will have a great and happy mood. What if you were told that as I sip my water? We must, and again, I am guilty of this as well, stop preaching a message to people of fear and avoidance. We should preach a message of pursuing happiness. And that's not a happiness that can't be caught up with something we're always trying to reach for. That is a happiness we can experience now, but that just keeps growing as time goes along. That is something worth pursuing. Did you know that churches in North America, not only Seventh-day Adventists, have one of the slowest growth rates in terms of membership? If you haven't seen it yet, then I don't know when you're going to see it. But one thing that's always made me feel kind of sad in church is, our churches, they grow, but they grow simply because more Adventists are coming from somewhere else. I moved from Africa. I moved from South America. I moved from, which is great, come join. But all we're doing is moving people from here to there. We're not really growing as a world church. We're just transferring our memberships. And I think one of the problems, just one, is bringing forth our messages in this way. Let's stop doing that. I must stop as well. My sermon today is entitled Health and Holiness, and I'd like to speak today about the significance of our health message. Our church has had this health message for over 100 years, but unfortunately, its significance within our church has fallen to the wayside. Now, there are different theories as to why this may have happened, and I'd like to share my own. You know, the health message isn't something new. It was never a new thing. Even back in Ellen White's day, they say, you know, the health message was given to Ellen White, but you know, the health message was never, it didn't start there. It started from the very beginning with Adam and Eve. Fruits and vegetables and getting enough water and getting enough sunlight, all this stuff was true from the very, very, very beginning. I'd like us to turn to the first chapter of Daniel, please. Daniel chapter 1. And as you're turning there, I'll describe a little bit of what happened to Daniel. Daniel has been caught in captivity with his friends Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. The names were changed to that afterwards. And they are being told that they are now going to be serving the king. But in order to prepare them to serve the king, they have to learn certain stuff and eat certain things and dress a certain way. But Daniel and his friends decided differently. We'll begin in verse 8 in chapter 1. It says, But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's delicacies, or food, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the chief of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. Now God had brought Daniel into the favor and goodwill of the chief of the eunuchs, and the chief of the eunuchs said to Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who has appointed your food and drink. For why should he see your faces looking worse than the young men who are your age? Then you would endanger my head before the king. So Daniel said to the steward whom the chief of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, please test your servants for 10 days, and let them give us vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then let our appearance be examined before you, and the appearance of the young men who eat the portion of the king's delicacies, and as you see fit, so deal with your servants. So he consented with them in this matter, and he tested them for 10 days. And at the end of 10 days, their features appeared better and fatter in flesh than all the young men who ate the portion of the king's delicacies. Thus the steward took away their portion of delicacies and the wine that they were to drink, and gave them vegetables. As for these 4 young men, God gave them knowledge and skill in all literature and wisdom. And Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. Now at the end of the 10 days, when the king had said that they should be brought in, the chief of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar. Then the king interviewed them, and among them all, none was found like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore, they served before the king. In all matters of wisdom and understanding about which the king examined them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers who were in all his realm. Now, often, we look at this story and say, well, they weren't eating pork. They weren't eating bacon. They weren't eating the shrimp. They weren't eating lobster. They weren't eating... But we're not really looking at the right thing. Why don't we actually look at what they did do and how it affected them? Now, they were learned. They were educated men. But they were educated in more than just whatever it was that the king wanted them to answer. They were educated with the message of how to take care of their bodies in such a way that they would be able to think and perform in these ways. Sometimes, and again, this is just my theory, I feel like our health message has fallen to the wayside because the wrong folk in our church got a hold of it. and really it's not just in our church, whenever extremism comes into play anywhere, it doesn't matter if you're religious, doesn't matter if you're not religious, whenever somebody goes extreme with something, bad stuff often follows. I remember growing up in the church, there were those who would speak about Ellen White and this health message, you gotta eat this, you gotta eat this, you can't eat this, you can't eat whatever. But let me tell you something, they were some of the most miserable people I ever met. It's like, did you eat a piece of cheese? Do you know where you're going? It's like, what is wrong with you? Did you know that's a... And it's almost as if we allowed folk like this to hijack this message, which is so important and so good, and make it appear as foolishness. And that's done with so many things. I'll use the example. I hate it, I cannot stand it, when I hear somebody call a Muslim person a terrorist. I can't stand that. That is so ignorant. My landlord is Muslim. You want to know what they do every year? At Ramadan, they come down with all this food and give it to us. We're not asking for it. They just come down every year, same time. They're just nice. Don't ever call, ever, any religion of any extreme whatever. Don't call them terrorists, don't call them anything. It is garbage. Terrorists are terrorists. Extremists are extremists. Don't ever put the two together and say they're all the same. Because it's happened even in our own church. You can't eat eggs. Don't eat cheese. Don't eat milk. You don't eat chicken. Just angry people who think they're doing the world a favor when it's doing no favor at all. And even then, how is anybody supposed to interpret that any of these things benefit anyone when they see any one of us acting in such a way? I've known the health message my entire life. I've heard it from the beginning. Eat such and such, don't eat this, don't whatever, I've heard it forever. But you know what? I never followed it. I never followed it because the only ones that I could see following it took it to such an extreme point, it seems. Even when they're saying, no, you should be happy, they don't seem at all like happy people. Angry and miserable and very judgmental. And I'm saying, man, is that what apples do? I want nothing to do with it. No, I eat apples. You know what I mean? We must take back this message and make it the beautiful thing that God intended it to be from the very beginning. Now, I told you I'd like to share with you about this Optimize Your Brain program. It is by a doctor called Dr. Neil Nedley. He's stationed in Weimar, California. He created this program, I believe, and I hope I'm not misquoting, he's a gastrointestinal he's a professional on that area of the body. And he noticed during his many years of seeing patients, he noticed that a lot of people would come in and say, my stomach hurts, I got something wrong with my kidneys, or I got an ache and pain here. And then when he does the tests, he'd say, there's absolutely nothing wrong with your body. There's nothing wrong with your stomach. There's nothing wrong with your liver. There's nothing wrong with your kidneys. There's nothing wrong with your intestines. There's nothing wrong. And he drew the correlation that it's not really here that's the problem. It's what's going on up here. Now, why do I bring this up? Say you go to the gym. You're a regular at that gym. You can lift a 50, 60-pound dumbbell because you've been training for it. You started with the 10s, then you went to the 20s, then you went to the 30s, and so on. Then you take a 50-pound dumbbell, go to someone who has never worked out, give it to them and say, lift this thing. Can they do it? Who thinks they can do it? I doubt. Sometimes we come with our message to people who know, first of all, nothing about our message, and who are not in the right condition or state of mind to hear it or accept it. And I don't just mean it's because they haven't heard it to be all primed up to understand it. I mean physically incapable. Here's what I learned from the Optimize Your Brain program, as well as another program, the Depression Recovery program. Did you know that unless you are physically capable, unless you are physically healthy, unless you are these things, your brain may not be strong enough to understand certain concepts? So no matter what somebody brings to you, you can say to somebody the most sensible thing that you can think of. But because they are not physically healthy enough to understand it, they're not going to catch what it is that you're saying. Just like with the dumbbells. If somebody is not strong enough to lift the 50, why are you giving them the 50 when really they should be starting off with the 10s? Get what I mean? I've learned from this program, Optimize Your Brain, so many things I wish I could share, but really, I'd really just like to encourage you to look into it and join it for yourself. I've learned the benefits of flax and omega-3s and tryptophan. I've learned the benefits of drinking enough water. I've learned the benefits of vitamin D and sunlight. I've learned the benefits of all these things in nutrition. I've learned the benefits of reading your Bible and meditating each day. I've learned the benefits of all kinds of stuff. I found out in March this year. Anyway, I'll tell this first. My wife told me, go to the doctor. I don't often go to the doctor. I'm fine. I'm good. I feel all right. She goes, go to the doctor. You haven't been there a million years. So I say, okay, fine. I found out, and I did not know this, I had high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and I was on the brink of getting diabetes. This is just earlier this year. I'd always thought, nah, man, Andrew Butler's good. I get some exercise in. But I was eating garbage. It's a fact. I was eating garbage. When I went to the doctor, he looked at my tests, brought them back to me, and said, what? What do you eat? And I had to admit, I said, doctor, I'm not sure if this would affect the test, but I think it did. I just had Popeye's chicken last night. I didn't eat right, man. And I hadn't eaten right for years. I'm a very cheap dude. Also, I don't like to ask my wife to make me dinner. I've always been just the guy, man, if I'm hungry, man, I eat some cereal. Man, if I'm hungry, I can have some crackers and cream cheese. I just have to eat till I'm full. I'm not eating for health. I'm just eating so that I'm not hungry. Well, that caught up to me. And he asked me about my family's health history. And I said, well, on my dad's side of the family, there is a history of brain aneurysms. He had a brain aneurysm. My father had one. He survived when I was 14, 15 years old. And I believe there are other members before him in the family who had died of brain aneurysms. And the doctor looked at my test and then looked at me and said, if you don't stop whatever it is you are doing, by the time you are in your mid-40s to 50 years old, you will die. go. Now, the fortunate thing for me was that at the same time, I was in Optimize Your Brain. I was actually here for the Depression Recovery Program. It has most of the same principles. Almost everything is the same as the Optimize Your Brain program. I had decided that I'm actually going to take these things that I'm learning in this program to heart. And let me tell you something. I cannot believe. Anyway, it is just the benefits have been amazing. I got on a regular exercise program. I run now. I lost 23 pounds. You don't have to clap. I drink 80 ounces of water. That's the amount I'm supposed to drink for my body size and type. I eat mostly a plant-based vegan diet. Man, I used to eat a lot of cheese. I run out in the sun so I get enough vitamin D. I eat lots of kale, lots of spinach, lots of flax, lots of walnuts and almonds and thises and that's and tomatoes and fruits and vegetables and all kinds of stuff you can think about. I wish that as a child, somebody would have told me the benefits of these things, rather than just saying, young man at 10 years old, are you worried about coronary heart disease? Nah, man, I don't care. If somebody had told me, if you drink enough water, did you know? You won't even need to really put on moisturizer because you're just moist. Go figure. Did you know that eating this does this to your mind? Did you know that exercising actually creates dopamine so you just feel better? Did you know that such and such a thing makes... Since I've done all these lifestyle changes, man, I used to hate waking up. I just get up, ugh. I don't want to see anybody. I'm going to eat my cereal and go. I wake up looking forward to the day. And all these things are just automatic reactions based on the chemistry of our bodies. And I'm saying, why didn't I know this back then? It was always, man, run from death. Because you don't want that, do you? I don't know. Other stuff tastes good. Now, as I'm saying all this, I want you to hear this above most. I am not saying... Repeat, I am not saying it is a sin to eat things like cheese or eggs or chicken or beef. I am not saying it is a sin. What did I just say? I'm not saying it because I know there's going to be somebody walking out of here. Did you hear what he said? I'm not saying that. But to eat these things in excess, to eat these things to such a point where you now have high cholesterol that could end your life one day, that is a sin. To eat to the point where you can't even really think clearly, to make wise decisions, that is a sin. To treat your body in such a way that will make you function at a lower quality, and you are aware that it's doing that to you, that is a sin. But if you slap a piece of cheese on a sandwich once every 2 months, don't bite somebody's head off, that is not the same thing. Do we all agree? Good. It has changed my life since I've changed my lifestyle. Not only that, and Dr. Nedley in his program could explain it much better than myself. He explains that a healthy lifestyle, because it increases the capabilities and function of your brain, you are able to understand spiritual things better. You are able to see things with a reasonable perspective. You can come at things from a different angle that you wouldn't before. Because your brain is functioning better, you can get closer to God. And so I encourage you, if you know your lifestyle is not right, if you know you're not getting enough exercise, you're not drinking enough water, you're not getting enough sunlight, you're not doing whatever the thing is, I encourage you, please do so. It has changed who and how I am. I'm glad my wife is here today. Has it changed me? Say yes. There you go. Am I more patient? Yes. Am I generally a different guy? Say it loud. Yes. I could just say it myself, but she's the one who lives with me, so she can tell you the truth. It really has changed who I am and how I am and many things about me. And what I have also discovered from the program, Optimize Your Brain, and the Depression Recovery Program, is that with all this, the frontal lobe of your brain is what it focuses on mostly. This is the part that analyzes and makes decisions, the part that is really you. When you get this part of your brain healthy, you have better self-control. And when you have better self-control, you can do so many things, including overcome sins and struggles. And I'm happy to say that, man, I've overcome mine. I'm not saying I'm perfect as a person, but as I live and as I grow and as I do these things and I just take these things to heart, things that would have bothered me, things I would have struggled with, things that were harder before are no longer a problem, and it's amazing. All because I'm eating right, I'm exercising, I'm drinking water. This is all it takes. That's all it takes. You got to choose it. But do these things, and this follows. Health and holiness go hand in hand. And where there is holiness, happiness follows close behind. I urge us all, if you know and you are aware that your health and your lifestyle is not where it could be or should be, I implore you to change it. I wish I was around here enough, now I'm with the church plant, just to say what I've learned. Because I've learned a lot, and truly it has changed my life. I got more energy now. I can think more clearly, and proof of it for me was this. More than just, I feel kind of better today. I just finished this June of this year, my third semester at SAIT for carpentry. I got 1 year left, folks. That's how much time has passed. Almost done. And it was after I had started this program that I went to SAIT. I'd already been changing all that I needed to change and all that the doctor said I should change, and following what Dr. Nedley said, my grades were the highest they've ever been. Still can't believe it, but it happened. My first year at SAIT, I remember I got a question wrong on a test. And I never forgot what the answer was because I got the question wrong. And the question was this: what is the most dangerous thing a carpenter can do? There were 4 things on the list. I can't remember them all. But the answer was this: work with a dull tool. Whenever I think or even see myself in our church, and I wonder, why? Why isn't our church growing? Why aren't people flocking? We have the truth here. Why aren't people running into our doors? We have the message that one day we're going to heaven and that God is good and that you don't have to worry about death because even if you die, you're going to go up to heaven and all will be okay. Why aren't people flocking in here to hear this? Don't they want to feel happier about life? But I realize of myself, with Jesus being a carpenter and God being the master builder, how can God reach anybody if he's working with a dull tool? We got to be sharp. And God wants to sharpen us. You know, God gave our church this health message, I believe, for this reason. He knew in Ellen White's time, someday you will not have to work as hard. You will not have to think as hard. You'll have calculators. You'll have computers. You don't have to plow your field with an ox. Go out there with a tractor. We'll have machines to do so many things for us. Our bodies can now sit back and relax. But it hasn't benefited us physically. And you can only think as powerfully as your physical brain is strong. I don't want to be a dull tool in God's toolbox. I want to be effective. I want to be able to go out there and change lives with God's words. One last little bit I'd like to share with you today before I end. I've met so many people, especially in my 4 years of ministry, who say, "Pastor, I have a problem with this." And my heart aches and wants so bad to help that person or to give them some piece of advice that will fix the problem. But again, I was young, so I didn't know much. And also, I would just do what I've seen anybody else do. I pray for them and I say, "Here's a verse." It gives me encouragement. And send them on their way. But I feel like that is not good enough. What could I tell this person that would actually change their life? Actually change their life? I know some people take it to heart, but the majority do not. With the health message, in conjunction with the Bible, I guarantee, and I'm 100% confident, anybody's life, no matter whether you're a believer or not, would be changed. Every single person in this world needs the same nutrition, needs the same vitamins, needs the same stuff to function and work properly. Everybody's brain requires the same chemistry. But we have to get the physical self in good working order before we'll ever be able to understand this. And I believe that is why God gave us this health message, knowing that there would come a point where our physical bodies would become weak, and so our brains would become dull. And so we wouldn't have the capacity, and others wouldn't have the capacity to be able to catch the message if we were to bring it to them. And so again, I urge you and I ask you, if you know that your lifestyle and your health is not where it should or could be, change it today. You don't know all your family's history or what's lurking in your genetics. You don't know what's going to happen. So follow these principles of health. They're not Dr. Nedley's principles. They're not Ellen White's principles. They're God's principles. And truly, they're God's law. Happy Sabbath, everyone, and have a great day.